guys? Welcome back to the Strike Twice Running podcast. I'm your host for today, Hunter Flynn, and this is episode number 5 of the podcast. I'm here by myself. I'm going solo for the first time ever, so a little nervous about that, but excited because I have a huge announcement. But first, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening each week. We posted a couple videos already this year, and they're getting some good traction. So again, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And so I'm going to just jump right into it. Guys, I signed up for a big race. And not just a marathon, not just a 50K, not just a 50 miler. I signed up for the Maah Daah Hey 100 mile trail race that's going to take place in July. Yeah, you heard that right, 100 miles. It's a huge undertaking, and that's what this episode's going to be all about, is me kind of introducing that, talking about my plans and how I'm going to be documenting this journey. So let's just jump right into it and talk about the race a little bit. The race is going to be the end of July. It's going to be July 26th with a noon start time, which will be interesting. I'm never had a major race start at that time, so that'll be interesting training wise. The race is going to start near Wofford City, North Dakota, and finish in Medora. And this is going to be all on the Maah Daah Hey trail system, which I'll dive into a little bit more here in a little bit. But the race is a point-to-point, 106 miles on single track trail. So that is a super unique aspect of the Maah Daah Hey trail. Is it's a point-to-point, it's no loops. Even a race like Leadville is an out and back. So it's unique to have a trail that's straight up 100 miles of single track trail. I think you run the last mile on an asphalt running path to get into town, and that's it. The rest is all single track trail. So incredible opportunity. There's 13,000 feet of overall gain of elevation during the race, which is a fairly significant amount because Leadville is only 18,000 feet. So in all reality, I'm not going to say it's as difficult as Leadville, because Leadville is different for a lot of reasons, and one of which being the fact that starts at 10,000 feet and goes to about 12,600 feet. So Leadville's in a league all its own, but elevation wise, just number wise, the gain is halfway comparable to the Maah Daah Hey, because the Maah Daah Hey is just up and down, up and down, up and down through the buttes and the Badlands of North Dakota. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more here too. The race crosses the Little Missouri River, which can be best described as muddy or chocolate milk. I grew up in southwest Montana, and rivers actually flowed there. And I don't know if it's just because there was mountains, but rivers actually flowed. They were fast moving, quick, generally. And rivers in North Dakota, they're slower moving. They're generally smaller. So this is an example of that. It's really dependent on how much moisture and rain we got in the spring, how much snow we got in the winter before. So the depth of that river ranges between ankle deep and knee deep, sometimes a little bit deeper depending. So I will have to navigate at least one river crossing. There's a bunch of different stream crossings, but those are usually pretty easy to jump. So getting it right into the Maah Daah Hey trail itself, the trail has been around for quite a while, but not officially. So the trail system has been developed in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Used to be managed by the federal government as part of the Forest Service, as part of the National Grasslands and the National Park and all that, but has since been managed really by nobody. And so the Save the Maah Daah Hey Foundation has really taken that on to ensure that the trail is in good condition for races. And in episode number 1, we talked about how the Save the Maah Daah Hey Foundation mows the trail every year and maintains that trail so it's good for racing. But again, the trail is fairly new in the relative history of the Badlands. So the entire Maah Daah Hey trail spans 144 miles through the Badlands in North Dakota, and it connects the north and south unit of the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, which if you've ever been there or get the opportunity to stop, if you're ever traveling through, stop in the Badlands, stop in Medora, go to the musical, drive the Badlands, go see the bison, go see Painted Canyon. The North Unit overlook is absolutely incredible, guys. This is the gem of North Dakota, the absolute best place. So please, please, please check it out. It's amazing. So the name Maah Daah Hey itself comes from the Mandan language, and it translates to an area that has been or will be around for a long time. So I think that's fitting, right? It's the Badlands have been there forever, and they will continue to be there forever. So I think, as a lot of things in those native languages, they're very literal. So I think that's a very fitting name. And the symbol for the Maah Daah Hey Trail is a turtle, which represents determination, steadfastness, patience, and fortitude. And the turtle can be seen on every marker post along the trail, as well as, like, this is a 10K award from a couple years back. So that's the turtle symbol. So you'll see that along the entire length of the trail. So it's a pretty cool symbol. Um, So that's a little bit about the Maah Daah Hey Trail. Again, if you get a chance to travel through North Dakota, you have to stop and at least check it out. So my goal for this race, 106, it's between 106 and 107 miles, and I would love to finish that under 24 hours. That is the official goal that I've set, is to run 106 miles in 24 hours. Now that is a very lofty goal considering it's my first 100-mile race, but that's the goal that I've set. The record is about 19 and a half hours, so it's about 5 hours behind record pace. So I think that's a fair guess for where I'm going to finish. And that translates to about a 13.5 minute per mile pace, which you have to take into account. I'm not going to be moving the whole time. There's going to be times where I'm at the checkpoints, taking breaks, changing shoes, changing gear, or just resting. So my actual moving pace has to be at least a little bit quicker than that to make up for those times that I'm stopping. So while that's my goal to hit that pace, obviously my paces are going to look a little different than that. So the question you may be asking is, why run 100 miles? Because I've ran a marathon on the Maah Daah Hey Trail, and that's a huge jump. That's a 75-mile difference between a marathon style distance and a 100-miler. So why that jump to 100 miles? And the number one thing is, it's a true test of my human limits and my limits as a runner. So that has been my goal throughout my entire running career, is to test my limits, find my limits as a runner. And honestly, I think I can run 50 miles. So I skipped the 50-mile race. And if you're going to send it, you might as well go big, right? So I picked the 100-mile race because I think I'll be able to find my true limits as a runner and as a human being. I think that's going to test me physically and especially mentally. So that's why I picked that distance. And the other reason is, there was a video on YouTube that I watched about 2 years ago that has completely changed my life. It was Nick Bare's video called More Than the Miles. It was his documentary, his documentation of his journey through the Leadville 100. And the second I watched that, I didn't know hardly anything about ultra marathons, had no interest in running one, really no interest in running, a marathon at all. And then I watched that, and it was a game changer, absolutely, because after that race, I was addicted to the idea of ultra running, trail running, running marathons, and essentially setting physical and mental goals and then achieving them. That's a big thing about Nick Bare and BPN, is that he does all these different types of goals. He's done everything from body composition contests to road marathons to 100-mile trail races. So he sets these goals and then he goes and accomplishes them. That is just, it's just mind-boggling how inspirational that was to me. So Nick, appreciate you, appreciate everything that you and your company does. So your video on your Leadville 100 has completely inspired me to run this race. I've been thinking about running 100 miles for the last several years thanks to your video. So that's how I got into trail running. And the next question is, why did I pick the Maah Daah Hey 100? Number one, it's in my backyard. The finish line is about 20 minutes away from here. The start line is 15 minutes from where my fiance works. She works up in Wofford City. So it's right in my backyard, and I'm always constantly thinking about it. I'm wearing a Maah Daah Hey hat, a Maah Daah Hey shirt. I got a Maah Daah Hey coffee cup right here. So I've spent time on that trail already, which is a huge advantage. I've ran the marathon on the last 26 miles of the 100-mile course. So I'm familiar there. I've trained there. I've trained on the beginning parts of the course. I've ran on the end. So I'll have to train in the middle sections of course. But another reason, piggybacking off of that, is that I'll be able to train specifically on that course because it's so close. So being able to train there is such a huge advantage where a lot of people that are coming from out of state or even farther than Dickinson, um, they won't be able to run on the trail hardly at all, if at all. So I'll get to train on there at least once a week during the summer. So really specific adaptations to that course, and I'm really excited for that. Another reason is, as I mentioned before, the Maah Daah Hey 100 showcases the absolute best of North Dakota. When I first moved here from Southwest Montana, I was like, "Where are the mountains? It's completely flat here. Why am I running here? Why am I living here in a place that has minimal trees and no mountains?" And then I discovered the Badlands. The Badlands are one of my favorite places on the planet because it's a hidden gem. It really is. So that's one of the reasons why I picked this race, is because I want to get to know the Badlands even better. And it's such a hidden place that is it's so big once you actually get in there, and you can get so lost, which is amazing. So that's another reason. And another technical reason is the elevation profile. So again, yeah, you have 13,000 feet of incline, which is fairly significant. The advantage is the elevation height. So the entire race is between 2 and 3,000 feet above sea level, whereas Leadville, you're at 10,000 foot starting and you go up to a height of 12,600 feet. So I won't have to do hardly any elevation acclimation changes as far as just altitude. Yes, I'll be working hills and doing specific training to overcome the sheer amount of elevation gain. I won't have to do any altitude training or elevation training as far as acclimation. So that's a huge advantage. Yes, I want to run a race like Leadville, but not for my first one. So that's why I picked this race. I think, um, and just living at the elevation where this race is taking place will be a huge advantage as well. So, kind of jumping right into the training aspect, is I have just finished my race plan based on this book right here, Jason Koop's Training Essentials for Ultra Running. Absolutely recommend. It's a huge book, but it's got so much information about everything ultra running, from training to nutrition, hydration, elevation, to writing your long range plan and your short range plan. It is absolutely incredible. I got it last couple weeks, and I've just been reading it every single day, and that's how I develop my training plan, is using that and also another plan. My training plan is 30 weeks, and there's a couple different main phases. Right now, I'm just in a base building phase. I've been kind of out of the consistent running game for about 6 months, so I'm just building my base back up now. Then I'm going to go into some interval work, and then tempo runs is kind of in the middle, and then the last 6, 7, 8 weeks are some endurance and steady state running. And again, I built this program out based on the Jason Koop's coaching method. So it's all color coded. It's got some really good, solid workouts on there. I'm really excited to jump into that. Going to start hitting some of that interval work at the end of this month, and definitely into February, which I'm super pumped for. And then one of the things that they talk about, and in the Koopcast, which is Jason Koop's podcast, he talks about one of the first things you do is find your other races that are used as training races. So I'm running the Fargo Marathon on June 1st, which is going to be just used as basically a long tempo, a training run, kind of see where I'm at, get a little speed work in prior to that, see how my road marathon time can benefit my 100-mile racing. So along with that, I'm going to be doing several race specific training runs and workouts, one of which is going to be a 40-mile trail run on the Maah Daah Hey. I'm going to run the first 40 miles of that course. So then I've run the first 40 and the last about 30. So there'll be about 70 miles. Actually, excuse me. There'll be about 30 miles in the middle where I haven't ran. So The big thing there is I'm going to get real familiar with the course. Again, a 40 miler, that'll be a good test of my fitness level. I'm going to be running a 30-mile night run. That one I'm going to be running the last 30 miles of that course because I'm a little bit more familiar with it. And again, night running in general is something that I'm going to be implementing into my training, especially the last month or two, just because running at night is can be really tricky mentally. So I'm going to be doing a lot of night running just to get my eyes and my mind used to running at night, and my body as well, because my sleep schedule will be so messed up running for 24 hours straight. So again, I'm going to be researching a little bit of sleep deprivation training, but that would be right at the very end of my training. So I'm looking into that a little bit, but again, my goal is just to get some good runs in at night so then I can be better prepared for running at night on the trail when I'm tired mentally and physically. Another race specific workout is I'm going to be doing a couple 8 to 9 hour hikes with a little extra weight. So I'll take more gear than I need, more water than I need, just to add a little bit of weight to my back, and then go just hike, power hike in the Badlands, and practice with my poles and all that stuff. So then I can really just get that time on my feet. Another staple that Jason Koop talks about is just the time on your feet is huge because, yeah, it's hard to go fit in an 8 hour run or a 9 hour run, but hiking can give just as much benefits as running because of in 100-mile race there's going to be a fair amount of hiking, a ton of hiking in all reality. So another thing that I'm going to be working on is condition acclimation, and the number one thing I'm worried about here, because I'm not really worried about elevation, is heat. North Dakota, I've always said North Dakota is 10 degrees colder in the winter and 10 degrees hotter in the summer, and that is no joke, and that's in compared to Southwest Montana, where 2 years ago when I ran the Maah Daah Hey marathon, the temperature when I crossed the finish line was about 100 degrees. It started about 80. So just blistering hot all day. Last year it was like 75 to 80. So it ranges, but in general, it's typically very hot for this race. So towards the end of my training, in the last month especially, I'm going to be doing a lot of sauna training and just training in the heat. So I'm going to be doing some afternoon runs where my goal is to just be hot. And the sauna stuff will be post runs to keep that heart rate up. If I can't get in the sauna, I'll get in my sweats and run, different things like that. So I have tools to train for that heat, but that is probably the number one thing that affects runners on the Maah Daah Hey. Tons of people collapse from heat exhaustion, heat stroke, all that stuff on that during that race, and I've seen it firsthand. So that's one of the biggest things that I'm going to be trying to acclimate to is that heat. So just by being in the heat, that'll help. Another thing that I'm going to try to not necessarily use as acclimation, but a big part of my strategy is nutritionally. Um, and in Jason Koop's book, he talks about the reasons why people fail and how to prevent them. And he talked about this list of reasons: blisters, nausea, cramps, inadequate training, all these different reasons why runners think they fail, or where they could have improved. And this was lists of finishers and non-finishers from a lot of different races. And nearly 40% of the finishers and about 36% of non-finishers of ultra runs experience nausea and vomiting. And one of the things that Coop talks about is the fact that a lot of these different things, blisters, even muscle cramps, muscle weakness, nausea, and vomiting, all that is a part of inadequate training, because if you're throwing up, it's because you're implementing something different from your nutrition strategy than you planned. You're trying something new. You aren't taking in enough calories. You're taking in too much. You're not drinking enough water. You're not taking in enough electrolytes. All that relates to inadequate training. So that's the point that I want to get across, and that's the point that Jason Koop wanted to get across, is that all the reasons that people fail during these races can be trained. Blisters, even time on your feet is huge, and learning how to prevent blisters and take care of blisters is huge. All that is part of training. So nutrition is a huge part of that, because that's 40% of the reason why people think that they are struggling during races. So I was recommended by the book and the training plan to begin the nutrition strategies around 4 months out. And I would say I'm already doing that by training with gels and electrolytes and G1M Sport by BPN. So I'm utilizing some of these things already, but I'm really going to try to narrow some of that down by about 4 months out. And then it recommends 2 months out on all your long runs, utilizing your race day nutrition strategy. So that's carrying the water that you're going to use, taking in your calories like you would during a race, so go gels or whatever. So another strategy during the race, around 200 to 300 calories per hour is a good rule of thumb. That's what Sally McRae says, so I trust her. So that's some of the things that I'm implementing really close to the start of that race. Is race nutrition strategies on all my long runs, so that my body, especially my gut, is really used to taking in calories when and how I've planned to do that. Another thing that's going to be crucial to my training is strength training. Just like every program for any athlete, strength training is an essential part of that. So I'm going to be doing strength training 2 to 3 days a week as part of that. And again, this is my first 100-mile race. It's my first race above 26 miles. I'm self-coached. Yes, I have this book, but I don't have somebody chirping in my ear what I need to do, how do I need to improve. So this plan is very fluid. It's very adaptable as I learn more, research more, talk to more people, different things like that. So as I continue to research and talk to other athletes and get more information, this plan may change, but this is just some of the basics things that I have outlined so far. So, okay, guys, that was a lot of information, but that was my rundown on the Maah Daah Hey 100-mile trail race. This will be the most difficult challenge of my running career and probably my life so far. And I'm so excited to set this goal and then accomplish it. Yes, it's January. People are excited to set goals and accomplish them, and I'm doing it too. I've officially signed up for the Maah Daah Hey 100-mile trail race in Medora, North Dakota. So my advice to you, sign up for that race. Do it. Because if you don't sign up, you're not going to do it. Last year, I said I was going to run the Maah Daah Hey Marathon again, and then I didn't sign up, and guess what? I didn't train, and I didn't end up running it that year because of the fact that I didn't sign up. When you sign up for a big race, it holds you accountable, automatically locks you in, and when you have that date on the calendar circled that says, oh, I have a race that day, you will train, especially when you invest money, such as a big race like a 100-mile. They get to be quite expensive. So once you make that purchase, you'll be more invested and you'll be more likely to do that race. So sign up early, increase that accountability for yourself. Also find a training partner that can help you along the way and also hold you accountable as well. So I'm going to be documenting this journey along the way. I'm going to try to update you guys every couple weeks on how my training is going. Give you some of my gear reviews. I'm going to do an unboxing of some trekking poles later on, so check that out. I'm going to be documenting what's working for me, what's not working for me, if I have any injuries and how to recover from that. And it's an opportunity for me to be a student of the game, student of ultra running, and I'm excited to dive in and take in as much information as possible. This is my first one. I'm excited to learn from this so I can help others as well as improve my times as well. So, guys, there you have it. That was my introduction to the Maah Daah Hey 100-mile trail race. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Check me out on YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. Next week, we'll be catching up with the other co-hosts, Trey and Ray. We're going to be just catching up as well as talking about winter running in the northern United States. They're in Montana, Colorado, and I'm in North Dakota. So we have 3 different styles of winter and how we run throughout the winter time. This has been episode number 5 of the Strike Twice podcast. We'll see you guys next time.